I've got 3 ways that I use breathing to try and help me deal with arthritis and the chronic pain that comes along with it. 2 of these techniques are talked about pretty commonly, and you're probably pretty familiar with them. But the third isn't really talked about outside of certain weightlifting circles. So I want to breeze through the first 2 and then we'll move on to the third and, in my opinion, most important thing. So first, I try to use breathing to relax. So if you've got a inflammatory condition, some sort of autoimmune condition, it's pretty well known at this point that stress can actually make your symptoms worse. So if you're going through a particularly stressful period in life, whether it's in personal relationships or in work or whatever it is, you can find that your symptoms tend to get worse. I know that I noticed this with psoriasis, that my skin tends to get worse whenever I'm particularly stressed, or, if I'm lacking in sleep for whatever reason and I have a stressful day at work, I can almost feel my skin starting to crawl, and it actually feels really instant. I feel stressed and I feel my skin start to change and psoriasis starts to flare up. So the way we can leverage breathing to try and deal with this stress is simply by trying something called box breathing. And that's where you breathe in for a set period of time, you hold for a set period of time, you breathe out for a set period of time, and you hold for a set period of time. So it looks something like this. You breathe in. That was about 4 seconds. Now you hold for 4 seconds. And then breathe out for about 4 seconds. And then hold for about 4 seconds. And then you repeat that process. And you can do this for, 1 or 2 minutes and you will feel the benefits. You'll feel calmer. Now, this is maybe not true for someone that's dealing with anxiety. Like if you're suffering from anxiety, like in a chronic sort of way, you might actually feel that these breathing exercises induce a bit of panic. So I would just avoid them, to be honest. And I think you need to kind of think about and deal with anxiety. And that's kind of beyond the scope of what I'm willing to talk about, certainly in this video. But if you want to try it now, basically all you need to do is sit up as straight as you can, breathe through your nose if possible, and follow along. So we want to breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now breathe out for 1, 2, 3, 4. And hold for 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, like I said, you can repeat this as many times as you want. You'll probably find it difficult to get started. I know that when I first started to practice breathing, I would sit down, I'd go to breathe, and all of a sudden I would just completely forget how to breathe. I would feel this kind of anxiety feeling in my chest. And it took me a little bit of time to get over it, but you can get past it. And there's another technique that I actually combine with box breathing that helps ease you into the process. And that is you simply breathe in for 6 seconds or 7 seconds, and then breathe out for 1 second longer than what you breathe in for. So if you breathe in for 7, you breathe out for 8. So you go in 7, out for 8, in for 7, out for 8. And you can scale this back and go in for 5, out for 6. Do that a few times and then move into the box breathing, and you'll find that you'll just generally get more relaxed as you progress through it. So that is the first way that I use breath to try and help manage the symptoms of arthritis. And like I said, this is just about stress reduction, about trying to get relaxed. And the second way I use breath is actually kind of related to that, and it's really about focus. So when you start breathing like that, especially with like box breathing, as you're timing and you're counting in your head and you're focusing on your breath, you'll find that actually it can help take your mind off the pain, right? So if, let's say you've got a sore toe right now, right? Because you've got arthritis impacting that joint particularly badly, or if your back is flaring up really badly at the moment. If I tell you to sit there and focus all of your attention on the pain, even if you're not feeling any pain right now, try just pinching your arm and look at what you're pinching, right? And pinch and think about only the pinching, right? Now, what happens if you pinch the other arm, but at the same time, try and count backwards from 100 in sevens. So you're going from 100 to 93 to 86 and so on. You'll probably notice that when you're trying to count backwards in sevens while you're pinching, the pain of the pinching is probably a lot less noticeable, right? And this is the same principle we're trying to apply here. You can breathe and you can do these sorts of box breathing exercises when you're feeling a lot of pain, with the goal of taking your attention away from the pain and focusing on something else, and it can provide some temporary relief. Now, obviously, if you've just broken your leg or something, there's a limit to what you can achieve by doing this, right? Like there's a point where it's very difficult to overcome the pain. But when you think about it, this is something that women have been doing for, I don't know, probably all of time, like through childbirth. You breathe, right? And you're focused on your breathing, and the breathing helps you push through that pain, right? A pain that thankfully I will never have to experience, and I have nothing but the utmost respect for women that do go through that. But the point is this: if you focus all of your attention on the pain that you're feeling, that pain is going to be magnified. It is literally like holding a magnifying glass over something. It gets bigger, right? When you focus in on something, you're going to be more aware of it. You're going to feel it more. So you can use your breathing to try and even just temporarily take away from the pain. So those two, try and relax, try and take your mind and focus it elsewhere, somewhere other than the pain. Now, the third thing, and the most important thing, I think, is what is called power breathing. Now, I originally learned this from a guy called Pavel Tsatsouline. Pavel Tsatsouline is a strength coach. I don't know him personally. I read his books. I've watched his videos. He's a strength coach, fairly renowned. You might have seen him on the likes of Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan. But when he talks about kettlebell training, he talks about this idea of power breathing. And this is where you breathe in to kind of create a brace in your stomach, and you breathe out to create power. So he's talking about a kettlebell swing, but I'm going to apply this more generally, okay? So if you can breathe in, try and breathe into your belly, right? You can breathe into your mouth, your nose, it doesn't matter. But breathe into your belly. So you can put your hands on your belly. I know you can't see this now, but that's what I'm doing. So hands on your belly and go, and breathe into your belly. Now try not to breathe into your chest. You don't want your chest to just expand. So down low into your belly, as low as you can. And again, for some people, this might take a bit of practice. Maybe you've been breathing into your chest for a long time, right? We tend to do this in modern society. We live in this heightened state of anxiety, which results in a lot of chest breathing. You're kind of breathing up here. But if you can breathe into your belly and then just squeeze everything around it. So your belly's going to expand with the breath, but then you're going to pull it back in with your muscles. And what you'll find is that you get this kind of hard pocket of air in your stomach. And for me, what that does is it supports my spine. So if my back is sore, every time I go to stand up, what I'll do is I'll go breathe into my belly, and then as I go to stand, I'll squeeze. That's when I do the squeeze of the muscles in my belly. So squeeze, right? Squeeze as I stand up. And that little squeeze gets you through the movement. And this is true as well if you're, for me when I'm walking, right? If I find that my hip is bad or my back is bad, that if I can brace my stomach like this and control the way I'm breathing, it actually greatly reduces the pain or discomfort that I'm feeling while I'm walking. So this is just something to practice, right? Sit down on a chair like I am now, breathe into your belly, try squeeze the muscles around it, and just notice what happens. You feel stronger, right? Your body now has more structural support, right? For me, the way I think about it is like I've just strapped an airbag to my lower spine, right? It's kind of the equivalent of if you watch weightlifters, they will sometimes put a belt on, and what that belt does is allows you to create this pressure, what we call it an intra-abdominal pressure, right? And what it's doing is it's just giving support to the muscles. And the reason I mentioned earlier that this is talked about in weightlifting is because if you watch someone do like a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift, and an overhead press, a bench press, whatever, what they will always do is they will breathe into their stomach, they will create that brace, and it's building up tension. And the tension, if you just practice it right now, right, don't just listen to me, do it, right? You can do it no matter where you're sitting right now, you can do it. Even if you're sitting on a bus, you can try this. Pull it into your stomach, squeeze hard, and you'll notice the tension kind of starts to ripple out through all of your other muscles, to your shoulders, your arms, your legs, down to your feet. And when you create that tension, starting from this intra-abdominal pressure in your stomach, and you squeeze really hard, and then you go to move, you'll notice that you feel almost this extra sense of power. And then as you're moving, you don't want to just go, right, and let the air kind of flop out of you, right? That's kind of the equivalent of, popping a balloon, right? If you blow up a balloon and you pop it, the plastic of the balloon will just kind of flop down to the floor. But if you blow up a balloon and let go so that it hisses out, the balloon goes flying around the room. So that tension is being converted into motion, right? And that's the same thing that we're trying to do here. I'm going to breathe into my belly and squeeze tight. And as I breathe out, I'm going to just like narrow, like I'm whistling or going tss. And by letting the air slowly like that, I can take some of the rigidity out of the kind of squeezing I'm doing of this air that's down towards my belly. And I'm allowing that to kind of convert into movement, if, that's one way you can kind of think about this. And that's basically it, right? So what I think you should do, hopefully this is useful. I know it's been really transformative to me. Maybe it's far more helpful for those of us that are dealing with like hip and spine issues, because that's where I find you can get the most support. But with any sort of movement, this really helps bring power into the movement. And what you're trying to do is engage your muscles and try and have your muscles take over for the movement so that your joints aren't taking all of the pressure. Okay. So again, the way you can practice this is into your belly, squeeze hard. You want your whole belly. And again, you touch your belly. I'm doing this, you can't see because it's off camera, but wait, touch your belly, right? Touch your midsection, right? So if I just relax, I can kind of push in, but if I go squeeze, now it feels harder. Okay, so again, when I'm sitting, squeeze, stand as I move up, and this will just help you move through the day, help you get around, help you go from sitting to standing, which I know for me was always kind of one of the bigger problems with arthritis, is that I'm up and moving around and I'm not feeling too bad, but I sit on the couch and then 10 minutes later, being idle or even an hour or whatever it is, being idle will kind of create this bit of stiffness. And then I go to stand up and it's like, there's the pain shit, right? So brace, feel the tension in your body, feel that there is real power kind of pushing through your muscles, and use that power and use your breath to help facilitate that. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Like I said, please don't just listen to me talking here. Try these things. You can try them all right now. You can do your box breathing. You can try slow breathing in and out. If you're feeling pain right now, you can try focusing on your breath and seeing, does it take the edge off the pain by just shifting your focus? It's like having a spotlight. You're just moving the spotlight somewhere else. And then finally, the power breathing. If you lift weights, chances are you already know this, you already do this. If you don't lift weights, you should in some capacity and incorporate this, but just in your day-to-day movements. I don't think it's any coincidence that as we age, you often hear people like, they will, as they stand up, kind of make noises. They go, right? And those noises are always quite constrained. It's like that, right? It's like you have this tension in your body and you're kind of slowly letting it out, going, you're groaning. It's the same sort of thing. You're slowly letting air out, because by doing that, you're kind of squeezing your muscles in, right? Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Hopefully this was useful. If it was, please consider liking, subscribing. And other than that, have a great day. Thank you very much for watching.